Welcome to Oxygen for Educators. This is Michelle Kinder. I'm one of your hosts. We're going to be looking at the hard truth that students need more, and simultaneously the adults in the building are feeling under-resourced and overextended. Join us as we elevate the voices of people across the country doing this work. We'll be looking at anxieties, overwhelm, burnout, joy, commitment, and everything in between. We're glad you're here. This space is for you. Hi, I'm Michelle Kinder, and I'm excited about what we have in store for you all today on this episode.
And I'm Chris Kent Phelps, Michelle's co-host, and I'd love to introduce you to Jackie Orr, who will be our guest today. She's the school counselor at Galloway Elementary in Mesquite ISD in Mesquite, Texas. She also happens to be the Counselor of the Year for her school district. And we had the pleasure of seeing her in action inside Galloway Elementary with her students when we were rolling out our Tacky Box Elementary School program. And it was magic to watch her in action.
I so am hoping that the audio or video, if people are watching on YouTube, conveys her level of presence. She's one of those people that you're just like, okay, you are living in your skin. You are grace personified. It's super awkward because I'm far older than her, but I want to be her when I grow up. Like, Jackie's just a marvel to me.
She's lovely and filled with so much joy. That's what I felt, just joy. So
yeah.
let's let our listeners hear your interview with her.
Sounds good. So hi, Jackie.
Hi, how are you, Michelle?
It's great to see you. You're one of those people I've spent very little time with, but you won my heart instantly, and you filled me with hope for education and the future and all things intersection of mental health and education from the second I heard the first words out of your mouth. How's that?
Oh, thank you. That is so sweet.
It's really true. It's really true. You won't brag on yourself, but
No.
You were named Counselor of the Year for Mesquite ISD. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
What an incredible honor.
I was very honored. I'm shocked because we have a lot of great counselors in Mesquite, and so to be nominated and then to win for this school year was amazing. So I've truly felt honored for that.
You also won't want to do this, but what kind of feedback did you get? Like, why did you get picked? Do you know?
So they do provide us the writings from like staff or families or students. So we do get to see that, which is great. And like any year you're nominated, you still get those. And so whether you win or not, you just get to see what everyone has said about you, which is also amazing because a lot of times you don't hear that working in education, especially being a counselor, because teachers, that's their teacher. They hear a lot. And so as a counselor, you don't get that feedback all the time. So to read that, oh, like you help me feel better whenever I feel sad, or, you listen to me whenever I need to talk, or, you've really helped my students and I know that you care about us. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, thank you. I appreciate that. And I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And just kind of helps you continue doing your job every day.
Oxygen
Yeah.
for you. Yes.
Absolutely.
I love that they share that with everyone who was nominated. That's just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, good. Well, I feel honored to get to spend this time with you, and we just have a handful of questions, but we can also zig and zag and let the conversation go where it goes. And then at the end of our conversation, I've got a few little rapid fires for you. Does that sound good?
Okay, that sounds great.
Awesome. Well, tell us your story. We'll start there. Like thinking back to kind of young Jackie and then how you found your way to education and counseling. How would you summarize it?
Well, I I grew up in Mesquite, so I'm back working where I grew up. I have two older brothers. I'm the youngest. So, I'm the only girl, so that makes a big difference. Growing up, I did not get to do a lot of things probably that I wanted to do because I had two older brothers, who were very protective and not wanting me to do all the things, even though I wanted to do all the things. But I knew I always wanted to be a teacher since I was a kid, because I would always play school and all those things. My mom, she is a teacher. She's retired now. So I would see what she would do, the good and the bad. And she would tell me, like, are you sure you really want to do this? Like, you see all the stuff that I bring home and, like, all the time it takes. I was like, yes. I was like, I do. But because I also see how you help them. She was a special education teacher. So I know she was really working hard with them. And sometimes she would even get those Christmas cards or those letters about how, you know, they really impacted their life. And, like, years later, you know, she would still get those things. And so I was like, that's amazing, and I want to be able to help kids like that too. So then just kind of in high school, I did the teaching like class that you could do to kind of prepare for that, and then went to college and did all the teaching classes to get certified for that. Now when I did go to college, I kind of paused and was like, maybe I want to do psychology because that sounds fun and interesting, but I really didn't know what I would do with psychology. So I was like, well, I know teaching, I'll be a teacher and we'll be good to go. So I went ahead and did that route. And then as I was teaching, I saw a lot of needs as far as like the psychology side, like the counseling side. And I was doing a lot of that along with trying to teach kids reading and writing and math and all the other things. And I was really drawn more towards the other side of it. So I decided to go back to school. And that's what I did and got my counseling degree for school counseling, and now I'm here. And I've been a school counselor for 7 years now.
I love that. I love that you were kind of an informed consumer going in. You know, you'd watched your mom all those years, and also what a nod to her legacy to be like, I saw it 360. I saw the good and the bad and the hard and the easy and the fun and all of it. And I want that. I want to be in the world in a way similar to how you impacted people in your career. She must be so proud of you.
She is. She's a great supporter. She and my dad both. They are just wanting to be at anything and everything. Like, I played sports growing up, and they were always there, and mom with posters. She's always the quiet one. My dad would be the louder one, cheering and yelling and jumping around. But she'd have her posters, and she would cheer too every now and then. So they're just the best supporters. I love them both.
Oh, I love it. What are their names?
Their names are Freddie and Valerie.
Okay, shout out to Freddie and Valerie.
Woo-hoo.
They did a good
Hey,
job.
Dad.
They did such a good job. Oh, I love it. Okay, so tell us what you know now that you wish you had known when you first started.
As far as counseling goes? Or
You go wherever, whatever sparks for you. It could be before you started teaching or before you started counseling.
What I know now that I wish I knew when I started. I think to just really have fun and build those relationships with kids. Because I think when I started teaching, I was just like, okay, I've got to teach this. They have to learn this. I've always really been in testing grades, so I was like, I knew we had a test. And we were just always doing the things. And at the end of the year, we could kind of let up and have a little bit more fun and just kind of get to know each other on like a different level. And I remember every year I'd be like, I want to try better next year to do a little bit more of this stuff throughout the year, because it was really great at the end of the year when we just got to do those fun things or just got to talk about things that wasn't school related, academic related. So I think I would tell myself that, like, try and just remember to have like those just random conversations, like make time for those things, even through all the extra stuff that you do have to do. Like, try and just make time for those little moments so that you can make those connections and just have those memories with the kids, and the kids can have those memories with you.
Oh, it's so good. And I think that's one of those things that only comes with experience, that you start to kind of see, oh, that connection actually creates the conditions for the kids to learn versus takes away from learning time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm thinking back to when we were at your school, and the little girl that I think I asked her, like, who's your go-to person if you have a big worry? And she was like, Miss Orr. Remember her?
I do remember her.
That
yes.
was so cute.
That was so sweet. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, thank you.
She stole my heart big time.
Yes.
So sweet.
So sweet. I do hear that a lot now. They're like, whenever I have lessons or something, because I just always, a lot of lessons are like, who's your trusted adult? Who's someone you can talk to? And they'll say their parents and stuff. And sometimes they'll say, oh, Miss Laura, like, we talk to you. I'm like, oh, thank you. Okay, yes, you can.
That's a big endorsement from the little bitties.
Yes.
So sweet. Tell us about a time in your career that really tested your resilience as an educator or as a counselor, and how you see it now in hindsight.
I think when I had just one of those classes where it was just tough. Like, there was behaviors, there was just lots of different personalities, and I want to say I was fairly newer into my teaching career, and so you don't have all the tools yet. Like, you're trying the things, you're trying to figure out what they like or how to connect with them and how to keep them learning and also keep everyone safe and like all those things. So I think that really helped build resilience for me, because I made it through that year and we still got learning done and everybody was safe and everything was good. So I think that just really helped me to know that I can continue, and like when things are hard, like I've made it before, I can do it again, or I can like now pull from those resources that I had found, or when I had talked to people and said, hey, like I need help with this, what did you do, what do you think we could do, I now can just pull from that instead of just having to kind of be lost on my own and figure it out. So I think that really helped me.
I love that. When I was doing quite a bit of family therapy with folks, one of the things we talked about a lot with parents was that confidence comes from first experiencing competence. And it reminds me of your example. It's like, oh, you had to go through that year and see that you could do it, and see that when you couldn't do it, you knew where to go to get support and help to get through it and do it. And then now you just, it's in your bones that you can do it.
Exactly.
So cool.
Yes.
Yes.
Because sometimes, you have to struggle a little bit to figure things out, because there won't always be someone there to rescue you or like to take care of it for you. And so once you go through that and figure out, you do, like you said, you feel more confident. Like, I can do this, even if it is hard, or even if it's going to take a whole school year or a few months or whatever it is. You're just like, okay, I've done this before, I can do it again, and you just keep going and you're successful.
Totally. And that quiet confidence, that calm presence that you have, when we were in the building, it felt to me like people's nervous systems were regulating to your nervous system, if that makes any sense. Like, I felt like you were kind of this like solid, I'm mixing all the metaphors, but like this solid presence that then extended that sense of it's okay. And yes, there are hard things about this work, but we can do it, and we've got each other, and you've got it. Do you feel like that's part of your role as the school counselor?
Absolutely. I feel like there is always so much going on, and like just high energy, lower energy, like trying to pick people up and trying to, get people to calm down and all of that. And so I just really feel like a counselor, like you just have to just try and be that calm, be that peace, so that if someone does come to you and they're just really, revved up about something because they're really mad or they're just really excited or whatever, it's like, great, like, but let's try and, calm down and just be a quiet, peaceful place. Or if they're really sad, just taking time to listen to them and just give them that space to either be sad or just, have that time, and then maybe play some games and talk about something just to kind of like lift that spirit back up. So I do feel that as a counselor's probably like biggest role, main role, I don't know how to say that, but just to kind of be that calm and that peace for the school, because there is always something going on, which is why I love being in a school. I don't know if I could work like in an office and just behind a computer all day. I don't think that would be me. So just having all of that going on, it's just, I think it really is something that we have to do as counselors, just for the whole culture of our school.
Yeah. If you had to guess how much your role extends in the direction of the adults in the building and how much your role extends in the direction of the kids in the building. Like what's the split? I'm sure it's different day to day, but what do you think is the split?
I would say either like 60-40 like towards kids or maybe 70-30 towards kids, like somewhere in that range. Because like I said, depending on the day is what it is. There might be days where I talk to more teachers than I do kids, just because of what time of year it is or just kind of what's going on in their life. So, I mean, I've had that. I feel like the past couple years it's leaned a little bit maybe more towards teachers just needing more help and stuff, just because I think of COVID. And they're just needing more resources. But I think most days, I would say it's more towards the kids' side. And that might just be because the teachers and staff are just busy doing their jobs and doing their things. So, you know, they don't really have enough time to just talk if they wanted to or to reach out or whatever. But they do. And so I would say maybe more towards kids, majority. But like I said, it just kind of depends on the day, time of year.
Yeah. I think that 30 or 40% is so important, and it can be missed. It can be missed by all of us, not just counselors. We can get so hyper focused on the kids, we can forget that if the adults in the building aren't okay, they can't extend themselves to the kids in the building. So I just feel like that piece of the puzzle is such an important part of a healthy climate, and you all certainly have that at Galloway.
Yes, absolutely. We talk about it a lot, you know, just like if we can tell that morale is low, or we're just like, hey, this, you know, the teachers don't seem, you know, very peppy, or like this grade level, or like something's going on. So we do try and have lots of conversations about that, because you're right. Like if they're not feeling their best, then they can't give their best to their students. And so we want to make sure as best as possible that we can ensure that they are feeling safe and that they're feeling like they belong and that they want to be here every day and can do what they came here to do, you know.
Yeah.
So if we can support them with, you know, helping out with students, or, you know, if they need a break or just something, a snack, you know. So we try our best to keep our pulse on everybody so that we can keep everything flowing.
Oh, it feels that way when you have guests in the building. It feels that way, that there's a climate of care for everyone.
Good.
Really, yeah.
Good to hear.
Okay, let's see what else we got. Okay, what do you think that the general population gets wrong about educators and education? Like, what do you wish they understood about what's actually happening in schools?
I mean, I see posts a lot about thinking that educators are like babysitters. So I think that is absolutely wrong. Because I also see lots of posts that's like, well, okay, if we are babysitters, then we should be paying them a lot more. Because, yeah, it just doesn't match up. And that second question, what was it again? You said...
Like, what do you wish they understood about what's actually happening in schools?
Yes. I wish that they understood that it's not a 7:40 to 3:40 job, because, like, that's our hours here. I wish they understood that having maybe just one child that you're talking to compared to 20 children that you're talking to for those 8 hours a day, it's a lot. It's a lot physically, it's a lot mentally, it's a lot emotionally, because you are, you know, teaching them and trying to teach them how to read and write and everything, but you're also trying to teach them how to be good humans, and then you're also trying to make space for their feelings and for when they are get upset with like a friend, or if they do have something going on at home, or if they are really excited about something and they want to share it with you. And so you're trying to make space for all of that, and then also trying to take care of yourself along with trying to take care of the students and, you know, be a loving, caring adult for them, a trusted adult, like we always talk about in school, because we want our kids to know that, you know, we are trusted adults for them if they feel like they don't have that somewhere else. And that we do either show up early before school starts and get stuff ready, or we stay after, or we do things at home just to try and make things more engaging, or, you know, just because there's not enough time in the day while you're at work to get things done.
Right.
So I just wish people would understand that. Like, it's not just the kids come in, they sit down, you teach, you go home. Like,
Right.
that's not what it is at all. It's really like a family, like a community, and there's all these little bits and pieces and all these little personalities that you have to try and figure out and work with and just try and grow. So it's just a lot that goes into it that I think people don't understand about education, that I wish they could just kind of see a little bit more.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so well said. So well said. All right. Any resources that have been helpful to you that you would want other educators, counselors to know about?
Resources. I mean, we talk about Castle a lot in Mesquite ISD because that's like a lot of our counseling is based off of their like model as well. So if people aren't using that, and I'm sure most people are because Castle's not like unheard of.
And that's the collaborative for academic, social, emotional learning.
I think so.
Is that
I'll
right?
say,
Yeah,
asking
just
me
for
accurate
Fritz,
for the whole name, I'm not, but I believe that's
Castle.
correct. I believe that's correct. Yes, and then Momentous Institute also has like lots of good free like PD stuff. I've sent that to some of my teachers if they've had some behavior things that they're like, I just don't know, and so I'll go find some things on there for them. They have some good resources.
And Castle's probably castle.org and
Yes.
momentusinstitute.org.
And
Great.
you can follow, like I follow Momentous Institute, like on Instagram. You know, they have all this social media stuff too, so that you can check them out.
Nice. Very good. Thank you. What about like personally? Are there any resources that give you oxygen that are sort of like ways you stay feeling your best?
I mean, like there's workout videos, I guess.
What's your favorite workout?
So I found her during COVID, because you can go anywhere and do anything, and I was like, I need to do something or I'm going to go crazy. But her name is Sydney Cummings, and she is on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all of that. But she is just so positive, and all of her workouts are for free. Like, she does legit programs that you could just do every month and do the workouts. Like, you can join, she has what's called her Sydney Squad, which you pay for, but she talks, you know, she has a podcast and she talks about things and nutrition and all that stuff. And just a very just like positive environment. So like anytime she posts her videos, like I'll just, even if I don't do that workout that day, I'll just go see what she's talking about, because she'll just have something kind of inspiring to say, or just, and she's like, you know, I'll be real with you, like I didn't want to do this workout today, or it was really hard for me, but I feel better that I did it. And so she's someone that I have been following for a few years now, and just enjoy either just like listening to what she has to say or actually doing her workouts. So
Nice. Great tip. Spell her name for folks?
SYDNEY, his first name Sydney, and then Cummings, CUMMINGS. She did get married, and so her last name is now like Howdishell, I think is how she says it. But all her like Instagram stuff is Cummings.
Sydney Cummings. Awesome. Great tip.
Yes.
All right. Before we do the rapid fires, is there anything that, as you were thinking about this conversation, you're like, I really want to bring this into it? Anything we haven't talked about that you think would be really useful to people to hear?
I think just support your educators. Like I know there's lots of things that have been happening and been talked about and possibly coming down the pipeline, and I know it's very hard for public schools, especially right now, with finances. And so I just would implore people to, you know, support your public educators. If your child is going to a public school, or your best friend or sister or mom or whoever, dad, is in education, like just see maybe what you can do to support them. or maybe just who you can talk to get more information about what you can do to support schools and to support your kid. Because it's not just what happens at school where they do the learning. A lot of learning happens outside of school too. So, just make sure you're reading with your kid or just giving them exposure or playing or, doing things like that. And I think we need to understand that it's just kind of like a whole wraparound thing. It's not just I come here and I learn and then I go home and I do something different. So I think that would just be something else I would add. Just really support all those in education, do some research, find out how you can help them, and then just support if you have a kid or nieces or nephews, just help them out with all that stuff too. Just build those relationships and have them read to you and play with you and go outside and go just explore the world, because I think that would just help everybody.
Oh, fantastic. Love it. You ready for the rapid fires?
I guess so. Let's do it.
All right. The first one is, do you have a go-to song that gives you oxygen that educators need to add to their playlist, or songs?
I always laugh whenever people ask about songs in education, because my songs that pump me up aren't, I would say would just need to find the edited version.
Or not, and listen to it on your way to school, F-bombs included.
Yes, like you just need to get early 2000s, like R&B, hip hop, like that is my jam. Like I love like pretty much anything you could pull out there. Like I would say, make a playlist and you will feel so much better just dancing around to that. But one of my favorite like number one songs, because I say it has positive affirmations in it, at least in the beginning, in the little chorus, is called I Look Fly, I Look Good.
What are the chances we could get you to sing it for us? 0?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like before we cut off, you're like, okay, we're going to leave. Do you want to sing it? Maybe I'll do it. But I do like that song because it's just like, it just kind of helps you up. You're just like, I look fly, I look good, so you just, those positive affirmations.
We need that. Oh my goodness. Yes, we need it for sure. I love it. Okay, that's really good. What helps you reset that would surprise people who know you? Maybe that.
Maybe that. Maybe some people are probably like, you're a counselor, Miss Orr? You're listening to this music? I am. It helps me to just shake it out, dance around, and just, that might be the surprising. They probably think like you probably just go home and like sip tea and drink, do yoga and whatever. And like now I'm dancing around.
Meanwhile, you're like, I look fly. I look good. That is so awesome. Anything else that would surprise people that helps you reset?
I mean, I really do like murder mystery type things. I don't know if that helps me but it just helps me to, I guess it could help me reset. Like it just kind of helps you just go to a different place. Yeah. I feel like that's not like super surprising these days. I feel like a lot of people do like the crime, true crime stuff and whatever. But I've always really been interested in that. I remember like one of my favorite books in elementary school was Dollhouse Murders. I don't know why, but I loved that book. And so I remember getting it at the library, and I remember when I started teaching in like scholastic books, they had that book in there. I was like, I'm buying this book for my classroom. And I would tell my students, like, you have to read this. It's so good. But I was like, I don't know. They might think it's scary, but I loved it back then. So that might be surprising to people.
Did your students like it as much as you liked it when you were a kid? Or did it have the same impact on them as far as you could tell?
I think they did. They also could have just been saying that just because they wanted to be nice. I'm like, oh yeah, I loved it too, Miss Orr.
You're like, oh.
But there are a few, I think.
Murder.
Right. I think some of them did, because then they were like, are there other books like this? And so those ones I knew. I was like, okay, you did enjoy this book, so we can talk more other books for you.
I love it. That's awesome. Okay. What gives you hope and what gives you hives?
What gives me hope? I mean, one of the things actually I just read the other day, like one of our teachers, they did this little writing activity about things that they're thankful for, or like the gifts that they have in their life or something along those lines. And so just like reading what the kids wrote like, that they were grateful for like their gift of family and their houses, or, just random stuff that they liked too. But just seeing their writing, because I know that's a big thing. And they like, it was really well written. And then just seeing the things that they were thankful for and felt like that were gifts, that gives me hope that, these kids are still, just happy and positive and really looking at the good things in life, and that, everything's not bad. So I think
that's really lovely.
Doing that, like seeing that, gave me hope. And I just feel like working with younger students gives me hope in general. That's why I love elementary school. They're just happy and excited and want to be here most of the time.
Yeah.
So that just always gives me hope whenever they just show like what they've been learning, or just show what they're excited about, like their passions. I'm really excited about that. What gives me hives? What gives me hives might be just all the ugliness, I think, that we've been seeing lately. Like, it gives me hives. It just rubs me the wrong way. I would think that, or hope that things would have gone further, like we've, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like regressed.
Yeah, we've regressed, and that gives me hives, because that is very sad and unfortunate. I know people have worked very hard for us to get where I guess I should say were, but maybe are, and now it's just like kind of all being undone, and so that gives me hives. But I am hopeful that some of our young people like see that, and they're like, we don't want that, and so they are speaking up and thinking about the things, and using their platforms for good things to say no, or like this isn't right. But yeah, just a lot of things that's going on that's just not kind, and just very ugly, and just the regression of some things that took a lot of work for a lot of people to do, and now it's just undone kind of quickly. So
yeah, I feel you so much on that. The kind of work you and I've done in our careers, even when things were kind of seeming to be in a forward motion, everyone's pulling on the same side of the rope, it was not going to get done in our lifetime.
Right.
And so then to see that, we're actually eroding some of the progress, not to mention not making progress, it can get so disheartening. Yes. And it's that we're like on this weird razor's edge of like, is this regression what's going to kind of cause us to leap forward, or not? Like, it's just it's hard to hold that tension of, is this going to just keep unraveling, or is this going to create a shift that we can all feel really proud of in a little bit? I don't know.
Yeah.
Good one. Really good one. Ooh, we need to have a cocktail and keep talking about that one.
Oh, yes. Anytime.
Same. Okay. Do you have any daily rituals or routines that you swear by?
Daily rituals or routines? Not really. I mean, I always just say, like, if I were on...
Excuse me, I look fly, I look good. Don't forget that one.
Yes. I mean, that one's not daily. That might be on a day when I was like, okay, I really need to pep me up. But yes, so we could say that one, yes. But I always say, like, if I were to be, like, on a reality show, people would be like, oh my gosh, you're so boring, I'm going to change the channel. I don't know if there's anything I would say besides my song, my little pep-up songs.
Yes.
I might listen to.
Yes, good.
Yes.
Love it. All right, 2 more.
Okay.
If you could etch a message on a stone tablet that would be found in 500 years, what would you say?
I would say, don't live in fear. I would say that. I feel like sometimes we don't do things because we're fearful of what might happen or like failing. And I've heard a lot, like as I've gotten older, you know, failing is literally like a good thing, and like you learn from failure. And I know as a kid I always wanted to do great, and I did not want to get a failing grade, and I did not want to get in trouble or all that stuff. But it's like as you get older, you're like, well, really, you know, failing's not bad as long as you're learning from that failure, right? So I would say, yeah, like don't live in fear, because you just never know what you might miss out on. Like go have fun, you know, live your life, but don't be fearful of it. You know, don't be like ridiculously crazy probably either, but you know, don't let fear stop you from doing something that you think you really want to do, or like you've been having this like nudge inside. You're like, I should do this, but then you just think about all these what ifs. Just go do it, you know, and if you are successful, great. If you failed, well, you tried, you know, and maybe you need to try again later or try something different, but at least you tried and you saw what happened. So
that one's going to be rolling around in my head in your voice for a while. That's really nice. And it makes me connect to your answer to the hives question too, because so much of the ugliness we see right now seems to be born from a place of fear. So that there's so many sides to that etching. I love it.
It's been rolling around in my head for a while, and just so I was like, that I think that's what I would put, just because 500 years later I think that could be helpful,
still going to be relevant. Nice, awesome. Last one.
Okay.
If you could share a tried and true mantra, saying, quote, prayer that has helped you and might help other educators, what would it be?
One of my favorite verses kind of goes with what we just said, is Philippians 4:6 through 7, where basically it says, pray more, worry less. So I think that could be for anyone, you know, as long as you are praying about it and then, you know, putting the actions behind those prayers to get that done, then you don't need to worry about it, right? Because you're doing everything that you can do. And then you're doing what you can that's in your control. And then whatever's not, it's not in your control, and that's in the other person's control, right? So that's something that I would say is maybe a mantra, or it's a verse that I hold on to remember to pray more and worry less, because I cannot control everything. I am not in control of everything, no matter how hard I might try to make sure that like it's going to be perfect or great. Like nobody has that. So I think that is something that I would say. It's just pray more, worry less, or, you know, take some action and worry less about it. Like just try and take that worry out as much as possible, because you really can't. And I talk to my students about that all the time, you know, about what's in your circle of control and what's not. And so whenever I talk to them about that, it's a good reminder for myself, you know, can I control it or can I not, you know? And so talk about that with them, and they kind of feel a little bit better. And then if you think about that for yourself, you might feel like a little weight lifted off of like, I can't do everything about it, so why am I going to worry about it? And so you just pray about it, take your action steps, and keep moving forward.
Jackie, you are a deep, deep well of wisdom and grace, and just thank you for your time and your incredible insights.
Well,
Is there anything we forgot to get to, or any last? Are you going to sing?
Not that I can think of. Maybe if I had played this song recently that I could. Like, I don't know. I should have like had it queued up and be like, okay, I can sing to the music.
Well, I'm going to bring that back up when we have the cocktail.
I was like, yes.
I get maybe we'll karaoke and cocktail or something.
Yes,
we'll see.
I think that would be a great time.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Michelle. It was great talking to you.
You too. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed getting to know Jackie Orr a little bit, and now we'll debrief and just pay attention to what came up for us and any takeaways we want to kind of highlight and underline. What came up for you, Chris?
So I was very interested in your comment about Jackie's nervous system resetting the nervous system for the rest of the people in the building, and you really noticing that and feeling that when you were, actually at Galloway Elementary that day. So I wondered if you could just elaborate a little bit more on that and the importance of having that calm, peaceful presence inside a school building or really anywhere else.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of my favorite things that I learned when I was studying. Well, it's not like when I was, because I'm always trying to learn more, but studying the nervous system, which is that our nervous systems are contagious and that our nervous systems talk to each other before anything comes out of our mouths. And it's all happening below the level of awareness. So there's perception, which we all know about, and then there's neuroception, which is your nervous system tracking your environment and the nervous systems of the people around you. And Jackie just has such a grounded, calm presence. And I just could feel anytime she walked in the room that it shifted the energy in me, and it seemed like in other people. And since we were doing interviews, of course, people were more anxious and a little bit more, revved up. And I could really sense the impact her presence had on all of us. And again, like nothing she's like trying to do. It's just when we do our own work to be calm, grounded, centered, connected, that extends to the people around us without us having to do anything. It happens naturally.
It's interesting you said that, because one of the things that I thought about in seeing her in action with the kids and then listening to your interview was she may be the only person that I've ever met that I would say rivals you for being so noticeably mentally healthy.
Yeah. I follow you. Yes. And that's it. It's like we read signs of safety and signals of danger in our environment. And people are a big part of that recipe. So I think because Jackie is who she is and does her own work, our nervous systems read a sign of safety in her presence. Whenever I'm talking to groups, I always ask them, think of someone on your team that when they walk in the room, the sort of the felt sense of safety ticks up, sometimes even before they're in the room. It's like so subtle, so under the level of awareness. And people can usually think of who that is on their team. Then I ask them the flip, is there someone on their team who the second they walk in, the energy shifts in a more frantic, frenetic, dysregulated energy. And of course, that person comes to mind even faster for most people. And it's easier to be like, oh yeah, I get the whole contagion thing. You can also think about it with strangers. Like if you're driving to work and you pass someone who you don't know this person, it's not personal, but they're in a frantic state and maybe they cut you off. Maybe there's a bad look or whatever, and how that impacts your nervous system. And same, I think about, this is an extreme example, but sometimes when you're passing someone who's directing traffic and they have a song in their heart and they're doing it with music, practically you're like, okay, this is choreographed. It's so cool. And you can feel the joy coming out of their pores. And then suddenly there's something different happening in your nervous system, just having that exchange that wasn't even an exchange. That's the most powerful gift we have to give the people around us as human beings, is our own regulated nervous system.
So I don't know if Katie has shared this with you, but we were comparing notes earlier today about what sort of feedback we're getting from the people other than my mom who's listened to this podcast. And the common theme is people are interested in the how to reset their nervous system. That's what people are really coming to us to learn about. In addition to the stories, that's the where we're getting the most interest. So maybe let's talk about some of the things that we noticed that Jackie does that you think helps with that reset. Like, I thought it was interesting that she talked about reading mystery novels, because we've heard that. We heard that from Eric too.
Yeah.
And just healthy things to shut your brain off from point A to point B.
Yes, that kind of disconnect. Both of them have a relationship to music. Music is one of the fastest ways to shift your nervous system state. When I was doing a course, it was suggested that we create a nervous system playlist and that we put songs on it that pull our energy more into that dorsal vagal shutdown, because that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, sometimes we need music that gives some spaciousness around a shutdown state. It makes us feel like kind of held in that state. Also more elevated energy, that fight flight energy, the sympathetic nervous system, and then more of that safe and connected. There's songs that kind of pull for all of those energies. And what we really want is the capacity to move through the states in a fluid manner, and to know what state we're in and what things help us move in the direction we feel like we need to move. So the goal is not to get into that ventral vagal, safe and connected, regulated state and stay there forever. That's not the human experience. The human experience is we're moving through the different states all day long, every day. But if you're conscious of it, and you know what state you're in, and you're letting that understanding dictate your behavior or your decisions, like, that sounds really vague. A good example is if I can tell that I'm in an escalated fight or flight state, before I was paying attention, it didn't matter. I would just, fire off that email or whatever. Now that I'm paying attention, I might write the email because it's cathartic, but I won't send it until I'm in a more regulated nervous system state and can read it through that lens that's not like a safety survival response lens. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
you did. But you made me think of another one. What's a tip for people listening to become aware and know which state you're in?
Yeah. So Deb Dana, who I did most of my training with, she talks about a 3-step process. The first is to map it. So you just start really paying attention to getting to know your own nervous system. Like, what do I look like when I'm in that shutdown state? Am I not answering emails? Do I, is it hard for me to get out of bed in the morning? Whatever the definitions are for you, every nervous system is unique. Then what do I look like in that fight or flight, or sympathetic state? Am I looking for a fight, whether or not there's one there? What's my cuss word to normal word ratio? Whatever you look like in that state. And then same with that ventral vagal, safe and connected. What do I look like when I feel really grounded and connected, and I'm in that nervous system state where I can access empathy and joy and do my best thinking, and there's innovation and all that good juicy stuff. And once you get a good picture of that, then the next step, so map it is first, the next step is track it. So that's where you would start paying attention to what are the things that put me in shutdown, like despair, injustice, Aunt Myrtle, whatever your list is. I don't have an Aunt Myrtle.
I had an Aunt Myrtle.
You did not.
I'm kidding.
Shout out to all the Aunt Myrtles out there. We're sure you're fine. Anyway, so same with, so all three, same. What what triggers me into shutdown, what triggers me into fight or flight. And then Deb calls it glimmers, like what are the things that pull me up into that safe and connected ventral vagal space. So I know what I look like in the 3 states. I know what tends to put me in the 3 states. So I've mapped it, I've tracked it. And then the third step is super important. That's when you start shaping it. So if I know a certain podcast, as much as I like listening to it, puts me in sympathetic fight or flight survival state, then maybe I don't listen to that anymore. So you start making choices so you can live in service of a regulated nervous system.
And that's where you're having your list of 5 things comes in that step 3.
Yep. Yeah, but you get a lot of insight into what your list might be by doing the first 2 steps.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a case for self-care and community care that's harder to make for service-oriented people if you're not thinking about it through the lens of the nervous system. But once you understand the nervous system, I would never walk away from the things that nourish me. There's no case you could make for me to step into martyrdom anymore, because I understand that martyrdom puts me in fight, flight, or shutdown, as opposed to putting me in that space where I can offer my best to the world. So it kind of makes a case for self-care and community care that's radically different than a lot of what's out there.
Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What came up for you?
So one of the things I loved that Jackie talked about is that insight to not defer fun. Like, you know how she talked about how, like, at the end of the school year, there was more spaciousness and she would have a lot more fun with her students. And then she, over time, figured out she could prioritize fun and building relationships. And that was more the bedrock of the learning instead of taking away from the learning. I just loved that. I thought if everyone listening stopped deferring fun and joy and connection, talk about oxygen.
I love that. I had that as a note too, because it jumped out for me, but in a little bit of a different context, because I was just, it made me think about the importance of community and the human need to have community. Part of it is because I've lived most of my life without it. And it wasn't until I went sailing with a group of friends and lived on a boat and realized like what it felt like to live in a community like that. And I'll never go back after understanding the need for it. But to me, that's what she was doing and creating, or is doing and creating for people by focusing that way.
Oh, I love that. And super aligned again with the nervous system, that need for co-regulation. There's a level of wounding that we cannot heal absent relationships. The healing has to happen in community in the context of that co-regulation.
It's probably worth mentioning for anybody who's listening to this podcast only and didn't listen to other interviews, about creating your list of things and sharing it with your coworkers. Because I do think I would think for educators who are so busy and it can feel lonely and overwhelming, that is oxygen. That idea is oxygen. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just recap that?
Yeah, just the notion of knowing what 5 key things are that kind of bring you back to center, kind of help you reset, regulate your nervous system, however you want to think about it. And knowing them before you get into an SOS situation is really key, so that you can then just deploy when you're in a survival state. You're not having to problem solve.
Love that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? This is so presumptuous of us, but what do you think would be on Jackie's 5 if just based on her interview?
Her workout videos,
Yes.
Because she talked about the workout person and that helped her during COVID just to stay sane. Her mystery novels, I thought.
Yeah.
Probably music because of her I look fly
I look
mantra. What was it? I look good, I look fly.
Yeah. Yes.
I was actually, when you were talking about your playlist, I was like, was that on there?
I'm going to add it.
I also think maybe mantras, because she dropped several, like the circle of control, like telling herself what's within her circle of control and what's not. And then I loved her conversation about fear and failure. Like she has depth to her.
Major
I want to
depth.
get in on y'all's cocktail plan.
Okay, yes, of course. Open invitation. Same, Katie. We'll
What
just
did
have
I
a group
miss that
cocktail.
you noticed from her list?
Those were I noticed those as well. Prayer, probably. Because her mantra was, what was it, like, pray more, worry less. So I'm betting prayers on her 5. And by the way, like prayer, meditation, anything that invites us into stillness, that's a mixed nervous system state of that safe and connected mixed in with shutdown. So it's not as clear cut as it might seem. Shut down, when you're fully shut down in terms of a survival state, that's where it gets problematic, or you want to have strategies to pull out of. But the shutdown energy can be so rich as long as it's grounded also in that safe and connected ventral vagal energy. So prayer, meditation, stillness, all of that threads through some of that dorsal energy. And yeah, so I'm betting, so what do we say? We'll have to check this with her. So music, her workout videos, her true crime, and prayer.
Mantras and prayer.
Mantras. We'll have to check and see what we missed. She said she'd go to cocktails with us, so that might be on her list.
She did. We have it recorded. I mean,
and her parents, the way she talks about her parents is so dear. So I wonder if like that relationship might be on her list as well.
I also felt like her kindred spirit when you asked her the hopes and hives question, and she talked about just being, or just the negativity that's in the world, and her belief, like the kids give her hope. That's obviously very mission aligned with us.
Yeah. Honestly, that could have been you, the way she answered that question. Like, I can literally picture her body language and talking about how it rubs her the wrong way, the ugliness in the world. It sounded just like
That's
you.
what she said, the ugliness in the world.
Yeah.
And that her hope are the kids. I loved it. I loved it.
She's something.
I also, it was not lost on me when you talked about she was an informed consumer when she went into education. And I hope that's, we're offering a little bit of that. And it made me even think about how we could market our podcast to people hoping to be educators or studying to be educators, so that they were listening to real stories.
Love that.
That was something Dr. Lopez, in her work with students, like her new work now with her students, she talks about the importance of, once you get an idea for what you want to be or major in, she tells the kids, don't go down that road until you do an internship and you really get more information about if it's a good fit for you. She tells a story about her daughter, Deanna, wanting to be a vet, and then she interned and realized she could never declaw a cat. And but that's what it made me think of, like, Jackie knew.
Yeah.
Like, she studied it, she watched it, she knew, so she chose it, knew what she was getting into. I just thought that was interesting, your question.
Yeah. I loved that she and her mom had those conversations. Like, it was fun to picture. Are you sure you know how hard it is? Yeah, but I also know what a difference you make. Like, so cool. And Jackie is teaching where she grew up and counseling where she grew up, which was the same for Eric and some of his jobs. So I just thought that also was an interesting, like, giving back to the same place that grew you. So cool.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about from the interview?
Let me look at my notes.
Okay.
I also loved that her stone tablet. You already mentioned this, but just to highlight it again about not living in fear.
Yes.
What an incredible thing that's the sentence that is most sticky for her, that she trusts and knows would still be relevant 500 years from now. Like,
which reinforces what she said about failure and just, kind of embracing failure.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever listened to Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spank. She has a podcast that's out, and she talked about how her parents as kids their question that they would ask at the dinner table was, what did you fail at today? They were like encouraging them to go try things and fail. It's interesting. It sort of made me think, okay, well, if nobody ever really listens to this podcast, hey, at least we tried.
That's right. Jackie and the Spanx lady would be proud of us.
Yes, they would. They would.
It makes me think, too, in terms of like a takeaway for people to really marinate on. Your first comment about Jackie and how much joy comes off of her, I wonder how much of that is connected to her examined relationship with fear. Like, she's examined her relationship with fear. It's not just running the show under the surface. And I imagine that if all of us did that over the next couple weeks, months, 6 months, year, whatever, just paid attention to what is my relationship with fear? Where is it driving me? Where is it undercutting me? What do I want it to be? And then just started to kind of like gently massage that. If we wouldn't also, if our joy wattage wouldn't like go up a bit, just from changing our relationship to fear.
I love that.
Jackie, man.
What would be your recommendation to start that? Like, how would you change your relationship with fear?
It's funny because this goes very much to our work with Tacky Box, but I think it's the same thing. It's like that self-reflection breeds self-awareness, and then you're in a space of choosing. There's a quote. I don't, this is going to become my signature of like, there's a quote and then I can't deliver it.
Katie's going to start just sending us the answer.
We'll have a contest. Who can fill in these half quotes? It's so in the absence of, like choice. I'm going to butcher the HE double hockey sticks out of it. But the gist of it is, in the absence of awareness, we're just doing our habitual patterns. Like, we're just dropping into those grooves, and many of them were born of that survival state energy. But if we can kind of raise our awareness by self-reflecting, and that can just be like just notice more. Just hold the question. It doesn't have to be hard. Just hold the question. What's my relationship with fear? What's my relationship with fear now? What's my relationship with fear now? Just paying attention, then that self-awareness bumps up, and then we have the power to choose. And in the absence of that self-awareness guiding our power to choose, then we're just kind of like, hamsters in a wheel doing what we've always done and hoping it turns out different.
Nobody wants that.
I think I mixed about 8 metaphors in that, but what are you going to do?
That's okay. We're tracking. I love it. Yeah. Okay, one, just for the sake of offering oxygen and tips, one thing that I thought of when I was listening to Jackie, when you talked to her about being Counselor of the Year and she got to read the feedback, I thought how important that is, especially because we've talked about, educators don't get that feedback. Like they're playing a long game, right? Like unless they bump into a student later in life at the grocery store to get that feedback, they're not getting it. And it just made me think that educators should survey their kids and just ask for that feedback, just for the sake of oxygen for themselves.
Love
because
that.
To hear it, and then they would, I would think, show up better for their students if they took the time to do that.
Yeah.
Because they are doing amazing things. I mean, we saw what the children were saying to Jackie and saying about Jackie in the school.
Totally.
So anyway, and it also made me think we need to get our Dear Teacher project going.
Yes, if you don't know what Chris is talking about, in a past episode, that idea floated, and of course, immediately she and Katie were on it, and we're cooking something fun up for you all. So stay tuned.
Anything else that you want to touch on related to the interview? To make sure we do Jackie justice.
Just like, one of our goals with this podcast is to give the narrative back to the people doing the work. And I know Jackie is extraordinary. And also I know she's representative of how many educators and counselors there are across this country that are like her. So that's like both encouraging and also like let that story be told more often, more loudly, more aggressively, because they deserve it.
And we want the people like Jackie to know she's not alone. There are other people out there like her, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you for interviewing her and breaking it down with me.
My pleasure. And we will catch everyone on the flip side. And Katie, who will not be referred to as a prosecutor today, she'll be referred to only as a producer. A big thanks to her. She keeps us sane and high functioning. All right, we'll sign off.
Okay.
Bye. That's it for today's episode of Oxygen for Educators. If you found value in this episode, consider sharing it with a colleague or friend. Please rate and subscribe so we can stay in conversation. And please let us hear from you if you have a suggestion for a topic or know of an educator we should interview. And thanks for all you do out there.